Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom Airsoft. It's good to see you again. If it's your first time here, then as always, it is good to see you and I hope you're going to stick around. Okay, well, welcome to our weekend video. Those of you who watch the channel already will already know that we normally look to do 2 videos a week. I normally put a video out midweek on a Wednesday and normally one on a Saturday here at the weekend. And in these Saturday videos, if you follow the channel, you'll already know we look at all things airsoft, gear, kit, replicas, everything in between. So, with that in mind, let's dive straight into what we're looking at today. Well, today's video, guys, is a little bit of a ramble. I'm going to have a chat about something that doesn't come up that often, especially with us being here at Rock Bottom Airsoft. As you know, we try and do airsoft a bit more affordably, try and save money where we can, and show that you can have fun without spending an absolute fortune, even though we all end up spending an absolute fortune, but that's another story. So, what we're going to look at today is whether it's worth building your own replica. And when I say building your own replica, starting from scratch, I mean buying all the parts and putting it together yourself. Now we're going to make a couple of assumptions when we do that. One of those assumptions is that you have the knowledge and the ability to put the replica together yourself, because obviously if you're going to be paying someone else to do all this work and buying all the parts yourself, then 1, you could end up with part incompatibilities, and 2, it's probably going to cost you a fortune because you're going to have to pay the tech that you get to do it, and it's going to cost even more than it normally would. So we're going to assume that you're going to be doing all the work yourself. You know which parts you want. So that's the first assumption we're making there. The second assumption, and I apologise for you guys over in the States, but I'm going to look at pricings mainly from UK pricing, because over in the States you guys have a lot more parts available and you can get them a lot more affordably than we can here in the UK from the research I've done. In fact, I'm very envious of the amount of parts you guys can get. Receiver sets, rails, all that kind of thing. You guys seem to have lots of suppliers that list those as in stock, and then over here in the UK there are certain parts we really struggle to get. You know, they're not always in stock. So, without killing this video off then from the start, is it worthwhile when you're trying to build a replica or you're trying to buy a replica and you want to keep costs low, is it worthwhile building one from scratch? And before we go any further, I'll tell you right now, no it's not. Not from a money saving point of view anyway, guys. It is going to cost you much more generally to buy all the parts than it would to just buy a replica, preferably one that you want, and then either modify it or upgrade it yourself, again assuming that you're going to be doing all the work yourself. Or you could buy a replica that's higher end, that has all the upgrades in there that you want already. You don't have to do any work to it, and generally, the price could be comparable. In the AEG world, not so much. I do think it's possible to buy a more budget-friendly AEG and then do it up yourself with upgrades and have it perform just as well as something that would have cost you a lot more money. So there's a couple of caveats there. If you're building completely from scratch, then no, I would say that will cost you more than it's worth doing. If you're buying an AEG with a view to upgrading it, then yes, that's definitely going to be a more affordable option than buying a really high-end AEG. On average, normally, not all the time. It gets very complex, dependent on what you want to upgrade. Now, the reason I'm discussing this is I have a perfect example. We've discussed this replica before. This is my Cyma CM513. This was the first replica I ever bought. When I first got into airsoft, this was the very first one I bought. Now, I've done lots of work to this replica. These replicas here in the UK retail for around about £90 at the top end. So very, very affordable. And believe it or not, guys, as I've said before, it performs pretty well. I think it works pretty well. So when I bought this, it's all plastic. Everything on it's plastic. There's nothing that's metal. I like a full metal build. So initially, as a new airsofter and not knowing much about the markets or being particularly experienced at teching on these things, I started buying parts to do it up over time, thinking I could break down the cost. And at the start, I didn't even look at the gearbox. I just wanted to have a nice metal setup, a full metal replica without paying for it, by buying cheap and then upgrading. Now, it just doesn't work, guys. The stock, obviously, on this has been changed. The buffer tube's been changed to a metal, and the rail, as you can probably tell, has been changed to metal. Now, the good thing about this replica is the outer barrel is metal as standard, so you're pretty much covered there. However, the cost for all these individual components to change them to metal is quite steep. It gets quite expensive. These two parts alone cost more than what the entire replica cost. So from that point of view, upgrading externals, that gets expensive. So if you are going to buy an AEG with a view to upgrade, it's worth getting the bodywork, as it would be, the receiver set and the rails that you want. That will save you a bit of money if you're going down the upgrade route. But let's get back onto task of what we're looking at, and that's building one from scratch. And the reason this has come up is because I'm looking to build a replica from scratch with the gearbox out of this Cyma as the base, because I've done a lot of work on this gearbox. It's pretty decent these days, but as I said, even from the many years ago that I started and I had this first replica, it still has plastic receiver. The upper and lower receiver are still plastic, which has been a niggle to me for many, many years. So what I've done to counteract that problem is I bought one of these. We'll maybe do a look at this in depth. I didn't think it'd be something you guys would want to look at in depth, but we'll have a look just now. This is an ENC M4 receiver set. I got this from Fire Support here in the UK. So that is a full metal receiver set. So when you buy the receiver set, as you can probably see, you get your upper and lower receiver, which is very nice, all metal, all good to go, nothing in it, no replica, just a receiver set, which is pretty cool. You get a box with your magazine release and your pins and that kind of thing. But apart from that, you just get a receiver set. Now these retail for around about £90. You can sometimes pay more for the ENC ones. You can pay a lot more than that for a full metal receiver set. So again, that is something worth remembering, that receiver set alone was £90. So that costs more than that entire Cyma CM513 just for the receiver set. And I have been looking for a long time for somewhere that has stock of a relatively affordable receiver set, which, you know, this is the most affordable I could find. And that was £90. If you're lucky, you might find a boneyard gun that has the receiver sets that you're after, but that was really hard to find. It's taken me ages to be able to get hold of a receiver set that isn't going to cost me £200-300, because some of them are British pounds, relatively affordably. So £90 you can just about live with. But this is where I get on to saying that building your own replica from scratch, if that's something you've been considering doing, is not cost effective. £90 for that receiver set for ENC. Now I believe that they OEM the receiver sets for the full metal Spetners, guys. Now that Spetner Edge rifle that we looked at here on the channel, that only retails about £190. So I've paid £90 there for a receiver set that's probably the same as what's on that Spetner Edge, except I paid £190 for the whole replica. So you can see there they only paid £100 for the rest of it. And what do we mean by the rest of it? Well, I've got a stock here that if you follow us on Facebook and Instagram, you'll have seen I put a picture of this up. This is Cyma stock. This stock retails, even from Cyma, you can get much cheaper. It's a stock and a buffer tube, but this retails at around about 40 British pounds. So we're already up to 130 British pounds just with a buffer tube stock and the E&C receiver set. And we're not even part way there, guys, if you were building your own replica. One of the key components we need, if we take a look at this, which is the one that I've been modifying over time, which will be the basis for my custom build, because none of it will be Cyma anymore, guys, as you can imagine. But, I mean, what else do you need? Well, you need a rail. This particular rail here, you can get quite affordably. This is a new Pro Bocker rail, and I think you can pick one of these up for around about 50 to 60 British pounds, sometimes less, depending on where you can find them. So, as you can see there, we're now up to 180 to 190 British pounds building our own replica. Let's remember that the Spetner Edge, which is full metal, was 190 British pounds I paid for it, and we're at the same price. And all we've got for our custom build so far is a metal buffer tube, stock, and handguard, or rail. And that's it. So we still haven't got a gearbox, we still haven't got an inner barrel, an outer barrel, a muzzle device. It's adding up, innit, guys? You know what I mean? You can see where I'm coming from, that if you're looking to make a rifle and think that that will be more affordable than buying either a rifle and upgrading or just buying something that has what you want in it as stock, then it is going to cost you a lot more to build a custom rifle. Cost wise, you're looking at double the cost of that Edge at least to get anything halfway decent. It just adds up, guys. You've got MOSFETs, gearbox components. If you're making a custom gearbox, if you're buying a gearbox that's complete, depending on who you buy it off, and I don't recommend doing that, guys, if you're doing a custom job, but if you do buy a complete gearbox, you could be looking at anywhere between 90 to 150 pounds, depending on who you buy it off. You can get a budget Cyma for around about 60 British pounds, but still, that's already pushing you well over what it would have cost you for, say, the Spetner Edge, or a basic G&G, or even a Cyma, which will all possibly have metal receiver sets and all the things and all the good stuff that you want on a replica as standard. And then all you have to do with those is just upgrade, guys. The other issue you may encounter when you're building a custom build is incompatibilities. The rail and the receiver, the barrel nuts might not be compatible. Your outer barrel might not be compatible. You might have issues with compatibility with your buffer tube selection. You could have issues with your gearbox fitment in your shell, in your casing. You might also have issues with your pistol grips. The amount of issues you can have with custom builds, guys, can get absolutely crazy. So that's something to bear in mind as well. So ultimately, if you were thinking about building your own replica from scratch, just out of parts, from an affordability point of view, then it's far more affordable, guys, just to buy a replica and then either upgrade or buy one that's got everything that you want stock. From an ease point of view, upgrading is a lot easier than building because you've got less compatibility issues. You may have compatibility issues in your gearbox when you try to do performance upgrades or barrels and hop units, that kind of thing. But generally, you will have less issues than you are if you're trying to match rails up and that type of thing. So that's something to consider, guys. The only time I would say that you might be better off building one completely from scratch is if you have a very, very specific set of requirements that only you know what it is. And if that's the case, if you're building one to an exact standard that you want and you can't get a base replica that's close enough that you can modify it to look how you want, then you've probably already got a budget in mind for that and you know it's going to cost you more. But if you're a newer player or newer to teching and you were considering building a replica from scratch, then just be aware, guys, that just with that basic math we've done there, it's going to cost you a lot more money than it would do if you just bought a base replica and then did it up. So there you go, guys. That's my little bit of a rant about custom replicas. It's only really come up to me because I've got all these parts. Like I say, this one. If you are following the channel, you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I upload on there as Rock Bottom Airsoft. There's little updates of stuff like this when I get new stuff, and what I'm up to in Airsoft in general, as well as what I put on the channel. Obviously, I'll keep up to date on there of how this build goes with putting those new receiver sets on. Let me know in the comments if you've ever built your own custom replica, and let me know how you got on, whether whether it worked out affordable for you. Maybe you use second-hand components. Maybe you got a boneyard replica, completely stripped it for parts. Sometimes if you have been doing a lot of work on replicas, you might have a big part selection. I've got quite a few spares myself, and then obviously it's affordable because it's stuff that was just lying around. I've got a couple of Frankenstein builds made out of spare parts. So again, that's another option if you're building your own. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. You know, are you more of a buy a base and do it up? Are you more just buy something that does what you want from the factory? Or do you fancy building a completely custom replica? You put your stamp on it, you built it from scratch, it's yours and there isn't another one like it. I'll always respond to a comment, guys. Might not get back to you straight away, but I will get back to you. While I've got you here as well, I just wanted to do a quick update with regard to the 2 red dot sights that I'm giving away. I'm going to be posting that up on a community post of who I'm giving those away to. What I'm thinking is at this point is, here in the UK we've got a lot of strikes and things going on at the moment that's affecting the post, and it's also affecting courier services. Due to that, it's very unlikely that if I send anything at the moment it's going to get to you before Christmas. So what I'm thinking of doing is perhaps waiting till after the strikes, and then I'll send all that out and get that sorted out. Let me know again, guys, in the comments if that's okay with yourselves. And the final thing to say as well is that I am going to try and aim to get a video out for you guys next Wednesday, but with the Christmas period coming, as you're probably the same yourselves, I've got family and visitors coming round. There's going to be a lot going on, so I might be off for the next week. There may not be a video on Wednesday or Saturday of next week. I will try to resume a video for between the Christmas holidays, between the New Year and the Christmas. If I can't, I'll put a community post up to let you know that I'm still off. But if I can get a video up next week, stay tuned. I'll see if I can get one up for you guys. And that just leaves me to say there, guys, I hope you have a really good Christmas. I hope Santa brings you some stuff that you want. If I don't see you before Christmas, then have a good one. And thanks very much for watching.